Hi again, here we are to talk about WordPress and working on our Nob Hill Gazette theme. And right now I have all of my my links set up, and when I click on a link and it's a category link, it will take me to a page that displays all the posts in that category. Actually, this one has a problem because it doesn't have a post thumbnail. We should fix that. I'll address that in another video. But when you click on one of these posts, and besides, I don't even want that Hello World post anyway. But anyway, so when you click on one of the posts, what's going to happen is this, right? So I click on a post here, and now I'm seeing, the content of the post. So when this happens, let's inspect the page, and what you're going to see at the top is you'll see that it says single.php. So when we click on a category link and we pull up an archive of categories, then we go to category PHP and we can style that display. And when we click on the title of a post and go to the single view for that post, where we're viewing one post, just a single post by itself, then WordPress is going to pull up single.php. Okay, so it's going to pull up single.php, and then that gives us an opportunity to style the single display in any way that we like. Okay, so right now my single PHP looks like this, and this is the file here. I'll get it out of my theme directory and edit it with brackets. And so it looks like this. And again, we have get header at the top, and then we have the beginning of the loop here, and then the loop ends right here, and then there's our, whoops, no posts were found, in case there isn't anything, right? And so what can we do with this? Well, what I want to do is I want to have a banner image at the top. And I put in this thing post thumbnail, and I use the banner size, but I actually didn't define a banner sized image yet. Okay, so this could be anything. Maybe I like what I have kind of on the home page, like a full width image, but I want to make it maybe not as tall, right? So let's make a size for banner, okay? So what we'll do is we'll go into the admin panel, go to Settings, Media, and now using the Simple Image Sizes plugin, we can add a new size. So I'll go to Add New Size of Thumbnail, and it says, what name do you want to use? Well, I'm going to use the name Banner, and then I'll validate the image name here. And what I think I'll do is I'll make it 1180 wide, and I'll make it half as tall as the large banner on the home page. So instead of 590, it'll be what would that be, like 295, something like that, right? And then we'll say we'll just call it banner, and then I'll say, yeah, let's crop that one, and we'll say show that in post insertion in case we want to use it inside a post. Okay, and then I'll validate it. I got to validate it or it won't take it, right? But if I validate it, then it'll save it, right? And then just to make sure, we'll save changes here. And then now this is a brand new size that we actually don't have any images for. So what we're going to do is we're going to regenerate thumbnails, right? So I'll click regenerate thumbnails, and then it's going to regenerate all the files here and make, if the files don't exist at 1180 by 295, it'll create them. So I'll wait a moment here while that updates. There we go. So that looks pretty good. And now let's go to our site. So I'll go back to my site. I'll click on departments. I'll click on social calendar. And then there's my new banner image, right? So that looks pretty good. And then now, I like the post that I have here, but I feel it's too wide. So on this page, rather than having all of the content go the full width, I'm going to make the content go about, like 60 to 80% of the width, maybe 80%, right? So here's what we'll do. We're going to go into the admin panel, into the single.php, and this is the content that we're seeing on the page here, okay? So we've got this banner here, right? And so this needs to go the full width of the page. But then I have the title here, right? So let's actually take a look at it this way. So, here I'm inside the loop here. It says if have posts, right? And this right here is the image that we're seeing, right? And then this is the title for the post, right? And that's this thing, H1 with the anchor tag. And then below it, you can see it says by admin. Well, that's this small byline, right? And that has the author in it. So this tag right here, PHP, the author, gives us the author of the post. And then below that, it has the date of the post. So it says 10:22 p.m. And that's where the time comes in, right? And we can customize this, but for right now, we'll just leave it alone, right? And then below that, everything from here down is the content, right? And so actually in the content, it has the author written into it. So they're not actually the WordPress author. So we might want to use that and then get rid of this author, right? Because otherwise we kind of double that up. But for right now, we'll just leave it as it is, right? So anyway, from here down is everything that is coming out of this content or the content function, right? And so we'll go all the way down here to the bottom, right? And there's a bunch of pictures down here. And then when we get into these big images, this is coming from this thing here that says get images in current post. I'm going to comment that out for right now. I'll just put a double slash in front of the name here. And then we're going to talk about this later because we might want to use this to pull images up and display them in a special way where they're not just mixed in with the post content. So sometimes you might want to do that, and I'm going to show you how to do that later. Let's refresh it, and it'll get rid of those big images at the bottom. So anyway, yeah, maybe it'll get rid of the big images at the bottom. I'm hoping, oh yeah, I guess this thing has to update here. There we go. Yeah, there we go, right? So anyway, there's the content of our post, right? So how do we make the content now not as wide as the full column, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our template here. And remember, the image here is the full width of the page. So that one we want to keep, right? And we should probably put grid 100 on this because it's going to be the full width of the column. And then below there, I'm going to add a div tag, and this is the closing tag, so I want to make sure that it doesn't close here. I actually want it to close at the bottom here. Maybe I'll have it close above this thing because we're not using that at the moment. So I'll paste it here. And so now we can see that here's my full width banner image. Here's the div, and then the H1, the author, the time, the content, and some post meta. Maybe I'll put some categories or tags or something in that later. But anyway, all of this is going inside this div. So what I want to do is I want this div to have a class, and I'll use the grid system here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the grid, 80% maybe. Maybe let's make it 60%. Maybe 80's too wide. Okay, so I'll make it 60%. And when I do that, and let me make sure that it updates here. Yeah, there we go, right? And when I do that, now you can see it's only 60% as wide, and that looks pretty good. But now it's all the way over on the left side. So what I'm going to do, and we talked about this in an earlier video, is I'm going to use prefix. So how many of you remembered that from the previous one, right? So I'm going to use prefix, and that'll add margin on the left side, and then I'm going to fill out the right side too with suffix of 20%. So if I look at this, you'll see that 60 plus 20 plus 20 is 100%. So this whole column is going to be 100% of the space, right? But the content will only be 60% as wide, and there'll be a buffer or margin of 20% on the left and the right, okay? So anyway, so that'll be good for us, right? And that'll center everything in the column. So we'll save that. Let me make sure it gets updated here. That looks good, and we'll refresh it, and there we go. So this is what our page is going to look like, okay? So that looks pretty good. You know, we got to deal with these images here. I want the text here to wrap around them, right? So I'll talk about that in a moment. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope that is helpful.